Good morning, good morning. This is John Dingfelder. You're listening to WMNF, and our show is Down and Dirty. Down and Dirty, we try and usually look at local issues and dig a little deep, get a little down, and get a little dirty sometimes. We'll see how that goes today. Good morning, Skip. Thanks for working the board.
Hey, good morning, John. Glad to be here.
All right. Irene is over there working the phones, and a little later in the show, we will take your calls. We always enjoy your calls, 813-239-9663. A shout out to you, our regular listeners, our new listeners. And again, this is Down and Dirty. We have a special guest today. Oh, Jason Marlowe is not here with us. He said he's doing fine, but had some conflict or something or other. But we have a special guest today, the former executive director of the Tampa Planning Organization, previously known as the Metropolitan Planning Organization, the MPO. Now it's called the TPO. Beth Alden, good morning.
Good morning, John. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. How are things with you? I say you're the former executive director. You tendered your retirement at a young age after about 25 years in the business. Last year, a year ago, right?
Right, just about a year ago. And I have to say, I've been sleeping much better.
You got a smile on your face. I saw Beth out walking the neighborhood yesterday, a fellow Seminole Heights resident, and she was walking the neighborhood, had a big smile on her face on a beautiful sunny afternoon.
That's true. And I love walking and bicycling around Tampa and Seminole Heights in particular.
Yeah, you literally walk the walk. you used to talk the talk, now you walk the walk. And our good friend Ray Rowe is over in the next studio getting ready for his show. And it's always good to see Ray and Mitch and Ben, and they're going to have a great show on the next hour. But Beth, let's talk about you a little bit. I always like to have our guests talk about where did you grow up? Where were you born?
Oh, my goodness. So I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yeah, I never would have guessed that. You have no Southern accent as far as I can see or hear.
So I've been in Florida since '98. So I'm more Floridian than anything else at this point. I get a nosebleed when I go to North Carolina in the winter.
And what was Raleigh like growing up?
A lot like here, growing fast, a lot of sprawl issues. And, I remember trying to walk and bicycle around the suburbs of Raleigh and having a terrible time trying to get anywhere. And I think that shaped me.
Plus, it was hilly, as I recall.
A little hillier than here. That's true.
But in regard to growth, I think Raleigh and definitely Charlotte has experienced a huge amount of growth over the years. Probably Yankees moving in, right?
Well, some of that and some natural increase. Mm-hmm. My parents actually were Yankees. They came down to work in the Research Triangle Park.
Okay. Nothing wrong with Yankees. Half my family's Yankees, so. But, so were they also in transportation and like you?
No. My mother taught English to people from other countries who came to the United States to, find jobs. A lot of refugees actually from
English
Southeast
is a second
Asia.
language.
Yeah, English is a foreign language. Right. For some of these folks, it was their third, fourth, and fifth language.
Wow.
So actually a lot of very educated people wanting to immigrate. And so she was there to help them. And my father was in air pollution control with the Environmental Protection Agency.
Oh, cool. Very cool. So not to dwell on North Carolina, but it seems to me that Charlotte, my last trip to Charlotte, I don't know, 15 years ago or so, but they were doing some mass transit up there. They were putting in. I think I rode the first leg of their system,
of their light rail system. Yeah, and they've been planning commuter rail also. Yeah, Charlotte's very exciting. That was one of the models that I was looking at as the director of the TPO. They did pass a sales tax, 20 years ago now, to cover their local match for federal grants to build rapid transit systems. They passed that with a voter referendum.
And did they have to continue to pass it over the years?
With a renewal, I'm sure there's been a renewal.
Yeah. But they realized the benefit of it. I mean, they built a system. They must have an integrated system of buses and now the transit. And you say they're going to heavier transit too?
Yeah, you have different systems. You know, like if you have a former like freight rail corridor that you can reuse for commuter rail, then that's a slightly heavier technology. But you know, it's a similar kind of funding model.
But that's an opportunity to connect several cities. They call it the triangle, right? Because it's what is the triangle up there?
Well, the triangle is Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill.
Right.
So farther west is the triad.
Okay.
But they also the state of North Carolina is a partner with Amtrak. And so they actually put a little bit of extra into Amtrak to get better connections between their cities. We'd kind of hoped that Florida would become an Amtrak partner at some point because we also have a bunch of cities that could be connected.
Sure.
But Florida's been relying on the private sector with Brightline.
Right. So let's go back to the MPO, now the TPO. Tell us a little bit about that, what that organization does. I think it's affiliated with the Hillsborough County City County Planning Commission, I recall. And we had a lot of good friends over there.
Sure. Well, the TPO, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the TPO at this point, but
you are retired. You're not speaking on their behalf.
No. Right. The Transportation Planning Organization serves City of Tampa, unincorporated Hillsborough County, and City of Temple Terrace, City of Plant City. And they're responsible for a long-range transportation plan that connects all of those areas. And is coordinated with the transportation planning organizations of the adjacent counties. So they do a lot of work with the DOT. They're also responsible for about $15 to $20 million a year in federal grants. So when elected representatives, I met you when you were on Tampa City Council.
The first time, yeah.
Yeah, served served on the TPO, and there was a vote every year on what were the shared priorities
for that $20 million.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is not nothing.
It's not nothing. You know, we could really have used that, $200 million a year-ish that would have come from the sales tax that voters here initially approved in 2018 and then did not reapprove in 2022. I mean, we have that kind of backlog here of, unfunded maintenance and safety and traffic operations. Like, some of our traffic signals could blow down in a strong storm, and some of them did. And more will with more storms. So we have big backlogs. The engineers and the planners know that. The problem is that we radically underfund our transportation systems here. And so the improvements just aren't happening as fast as they need to.
Now, you've been saying that for several years.
A few years now.
A few years now. Do elected folks listen when you say that? And do they respond?
It depends. Folks come at this with a lot of different perspectives.
We've had a big change in the county commission over the last 2 or 3 years. For a while, it was more on the progressive side. It's gone up and down and up and down. You and I have been doing this now, Hillsborough County, for 25 years or more. And we've seen it go up and down and up and down. And I'm not just talking about party, because sometimes folks will cross party lines for transportation. Well,
yeah, transportation infrastructure touches everybody.
Yeah.
And so it's not a strictly partisan issue.
But the county commission, Hillsborough County Commission, recently seems to be in a very, very conservative mode. Does that bleed over to the transportation funding?
Sure. I think, it's fair to ask, are we using the dollars that we have as wisely as possible? And it takes a while to be able to, get up to speed on exactly how big the backlog is. But it's an order of magnitude problem. I mean,
So give us a number. Give us a number of how big is the backlog?
Well,
What do you think?
As I said, there was a good plan to use $200 million a year from the sales tax for transportation.
Over X number of years, that would have maybe caught us up a
It
little bit.
would have caught us up on the backlog of, like, the city and county roads are not getting resurfaced on time, have not been resurfaced on time for years. That only gets more expensive as the roads crumble. Then you can't just repave over them. You have to actually rebuild them.
Yeah. Even Dick Greco, when he was mayor the second time, which is still many years ago, used to say that. He'd say, well, we repave our roads in the city of Tampa every, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years or something like that, maybe. And at that rate, we don't get back to them every 30 years. And that's probably on the optimistic side, right?
Yeah, 30 would be good. No, I think Tampa's more like around 70 at this point. So, you'll see
Good thing we have some brick streets.
Yeah, it's just, and then you look at what would the numbers be for, like, safety hotspot treatments in the severe crash areas. We just have a lot of areas that need to be retrofitted because when they were built, there wasn't the development that there is now. We started out with a lot of rural roadways, and then we built like crazy all along them. And, some of them don't even have lights. And that means you have severe crashes because people don't necessarily see something at night and they don't hit their brakes. And, some of our worst pedestrian crashes are in those poorly lit spots. There's just...
So let's go back. What year did you get here in Tampa?
98.
98. Okay, perfect. So back then, a young man who was very tall by the name of Ed Taranchik came into town as an attorney. Shortly thereafter, got elected. Oh no, that was 80s. That was in the 80s. Excuse me, off by a decade. Okay, so in
early 90s,
1990, Ed got elected. Phyllis Buzanska got elected in 88. Ed Taranchik got elected in 90. Now I'm showing my age, but Ed I'm sure there were a lot of other people talking about transportation. Ray Tremonti was around and others like him, Tony and stuff. But Ed was one of the first elected officials who really spoke to it and spoke to mass transit and said, let's fund this, let's do this. Try it, did it for about a decade, and then it just kind of fizzled away. But then you mentioned... Do
you remember the Committee of 99?
Yes. Yes.
And 99 people meeting for nearly a year, yes, for how to fund the backlog that existed in 1999.
Yeah.
And one of the recommendations was, big shocker, a sales tax.
Okay.
Which then the Hillsborough County Commission declined to put on the ballot and let people vote on.
Because we were cycling into a conservative commission back then. Was probably, I don't know, Jim Norman or what's her name from out in the East County. What was it? Rhonda Storms?
Rhonda Storms.
Rhonda Storms. You say that with, I served on the, what was it, on the trolley board or the Heart Board with Rhonda Storms. That was a trip.
Well, she was skeptical. Well, is the streetcar, if we're going to put money into transit, is the streetcar where we should put it? And I think that's a fair question, too. I mean, we need to be able to get people the jobs.
Here was the problem with that. Is it had already been built by the time Rhonda came on.
Right.
And it had been built with many, many millions of federal dollars. And so Rhonda said, we need to mothball I remember this so vividly. She said, we need to mothball the streetcar. Okay, you might have been there. She said, we need to mothball the streetcar. And I knew that was coming. So I turned to staff and I said, well, what's the impact if we mothball the streetcar? And they said, oh, well, then we have to give all those millions of dollars back.
We have to repay about $65 million
back to
the feds. Yeah.
And so that was not and then she closed her mouth. So that was actually good. I felt here I am 25 years later, feel very good about that moment. Well, listen, we're talking to Beth Alden. Beth is the former executive director of the Tampa or Metropolitan Planning Organization, which basically tries its best to plan transportation for all of Hillsborough County. We would like to hear from you, 813-239-9663. We know we're probably sort of nerding out here on transportation issues. It's hard to avoid. But tell us what your experiences are, just in terms of traffic, in terms of bad roads, in terms of anything that's on your mind in the realm of transportation and mass transit. What's your experience been like in other cities? What can you do to help and become and be involved? 813-239-9663. Let's get those phone lines blowing up. So, Beth, obviously the Committee of 99 didn't put something on the ballot, but we did get it on the ballot when, 2018?
In 2018, and that was
6
as a
years
result
ago,
of a citizen petition. Yeah, the county commission did not put it on the ballot then either. Continued to look
That's
at the
right.
shortfalls and continue to decide not to let the voters vote on it.
Right. That young group was so impressive. I can't remember their names, but
All for Transportation.
All for Transportation. Yeah, a bunch of young people in their 20s and 30s said, okay, if the county commission is not going to do it, we're going to do it. And they raised some money.
Right.
They got some funding. They did the petitions. They got it on the ballot.
And they spent a long time looking at the research that the TPO had done to document all of the funding shortfalls. Mm-hmm. So it was a joint effort, and we were happy to provide the background information.
That was probably one of the most exciting moments in your professional career, I would guess.
It's exciting when you get to plan something that it has a chance of becoming real.
Yeah. $200 million. Now we're talking real money.
And we're talking, actually being able to make a difference, actually being able to bring the crash rates down, actually being able to run the buses often enough to get people to where they need to go, fix the traffic signals, all of those basic things that we're not doing as good a job with as we could. John, I wonder if I could just squeeze in here
anything you wish.
An announcement about the Gulf Coast Safe Streets Summit, which is coming up in February. And I'm now a member of the board of Walk Bike Tampa.
Okay.
And so we've partnered.
Which is not what? What is Walk
That
Bike?
it is a nonprofit serving Tampa specifically, and it raises awareness about walking and biking, shares information about upcoming projects, and organizes World Car Free Day. We just had our second Tampa celebration of World Car Free Day in September, and already doubled the amount of participation, raised $23,000. Some of that's going to get spent on street murals, probably near schools.
Okay. So I'm going to pat myself on the back, and my wife, Lynn, we walked to dinner last night. And granted, it was only one block over to Tripp's Restaurant, but we walked.
That's fabulous. That's right. Well, and more people would walk more places if there were safe, comfortable ways to get there.
Yeah.
Because
we do sort of cringe when we're out on Florida Avenue.
Exactly.
Because it's kind of like...
It's fast.
It's fast, and it's like 3 feet away from where you're walking.
Exactly.
It'd be nice if there was a little buffer there, you know?
Right. Maybe even like on-street parking when it's not rush hour.
Yeah.
That could be a little buffer between the traffic and where the people are walking on the sidewalk.
Has anybody proposed that to the... That'd be to the
maybe the
FDOT,
TPO
right?
like 10 years ago. Yeah. But let me announce there is a...
Okay, so tell us a little more on that conference. Where is it? How do the people find out about it?
Right. Gulf Coast Safe Streets Summit
Okay.
is a half-day workshop on February 13th. We've got national guest speaker Gil Penalosa, who's amazing. So he's going to be coming in, and elected officials and engineers from all around the region. If you don't want to pay the $15 to $25 registration fee, fair enough, there is a free event the night before that's co-sponsored by Walk Bike Tampa and Plan Hillsborough. So that's Wednesday, February 12th. It is at the Seminole Heights Garden Center.
Oh, cool.
Gil Penalosa will be there. We are also bringing in Jessica Reister-Hart from Washington, D.C. with Families for Safe Streets.
And what website can they find all of this on? The Walk Bike Tampa website?
Yeah, so check out Walk Bike Tampa on our Facebook, which is public, and all kinds of details there.
Okay, excellent. And I think you said you were on another organization in addition to Walk Bike Tampa?
So there's a statewide nonprofit called the Florida Greenways and Trails Foundation.
Greenways?
Greenways.
Greenways, I'm
I know
sorry.
we are dreaming, but greenways and trails. And so you might have heard of the Sun Trail system, state non-motorized transportation corridors. So this is like having an actual 8-foot or 12-foot wide path that you can walk or bicycle on, anything that's not motorized. And it'd go all the way across the state and connect cities across the state.
Cool.
So that's the Sun Trail system. The legislature recently expanded that to include wildlife corridors as well. And so there's a statewide summit about the Sun Trail system, and that's coming up February 5th and 6th at the Venice Community Center, so just south of Sarasota.
Cool.
And you can find out all about that on fgtf.org. That stands for Florida Greenways and Trails Foundation.org, fgtf.org.
So you're going to go to that too?
Yes, sir. I will be there. I would love to see anybody else from around here.
Yeah. I'm excited. That one right there in my neighborhood, Seminole Heights Garden Club. Maybe I'll trot over there. Maybe I'll walk over. Well, maybe I'll bicycle over.
I heard that Councilwoman Hurtak is planning to attend on February 12th at the Seminole Heights Garden Center.
Oh my God! Speak of the devil.
Community conversation about safe streets.
Councilwoman Hurtak just walked in the studio. Good morning, Lynn Hurtak.
Good morning. I'm sorry I was late. I was at the Land Development Code meeting at Hannah City Center, so I had to leave a little early. But
Little workshop or something.
It's the community group that they've gathered to get input from community members on the Land Development Code. It's a group of wonderful folks. So they're talking about some really great things today.
Awesome.
But I will absolutely be at the Complete Streets event. I am unbelievably excited. I've been following Gil, I believe,
Gil Penalosa
on social media, and he's always so inspiring. So
Where's he from?
Colombia. He's from Bogota.
Oh, wow.
And so they're the
But
ones.
is he working in the U.S. or is he just?
He's working in Toronto right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I believe that's part of the U.S. if you ask our incoming president, isn't it?
Well, he does. He leads an international organization called 8 to 80 Cities, which means if your city is a safe place to get around, if you're 8 years old or if you're 80 years old, then it works for pretty much everybody.
Yep, exactly.
So, as a little background, Lynn Hurtak is our Tampa City Councilwoman citywide. When I left City Council, I had shoes to fill. Some might say small or large or what have you, but I was very pleased that Lynn Hurtak took my seat and filled my shoes very adequately, and she's doing a great job in many areas, and especially transportation. That seems to be one of your pet projects and loves and et cetera. What gets you excited about transportation, Lynn Hurtak?
Honestly, exactly just what we were talking about. To make a city viable, you have to make it accessible for folks 8 to 80. You have to make it accessible for folks who might have mobility challenges. And if you can make a city for all of those folks, you will have a phenomenal city. Think of any amazing city. Look at what Paris is doing right now. I mean, they have more people commuting by bike than ever before. I mean, they're just blowing numbers out the water, or just it's amazing.
But now I was reading an article about the bike motorized vehicle conflict in Paris, where it's almost becoming angry and violent and that sort of thing. One of the big bike advocates in Paris got killed by a car, sadly, over the holidays. Yeah.
Well, but that's the thing. Growing pains come in every way. We got some phenomenal news. I sit on the TPO as well. It's that, and we got wonderful news that the death rate in our area went down. In Hillsborough County, went down last year.
Because traditionally we've had one of the highest fatality rates in the country.
Yes.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons that one of the actually, it was a council member, Clendenin, theorized, which made a lot of sense to me, was, well, we have so much traffic now that people really can't speed.
Driving slower.
They have to drive slower. So, which is a good and a bad thing. I mean, everything we do has trade-offs. And
now, before you walked in, I don't know if you were listening in your car, but Beth and I were talking about Florida Avenue, okay, which is close to all three of our houses. And but everybody's got a Florida Avenue near them.
Yep.
And the cars do go too fast, and they go too fast to where so fast that my wife and I don't feel comfortable walking on the sidewalk next to it, which is sad because it's a wide sidewalk. But even so, it's just like one little misstep by that driver or what have you, and they're up on the sidewalk. So, Lynn, we are going to put that challenge to you to go to the DOT because they control Florida Avenue and implement what Beth was saying. Beth was saying put parking out there during the non-rush hours.
Oh, I mean, that would be wonderful. That is what we're seeing. Transit advocates are doing that in Minneapolis right now. That's what the city is doing. They actually are taking bus lanes, and they make them bus only during transit hours. And then during the rest of the day, they are for cars to park.
And cars create a nice buffer.
Car storage.
We sort of did that a little bit downtown. I feel like downtown is much, much safer to walk. And I'll give a shout out to my friend Bob Buckhorn. Bob and I don't always see eye to eye on a lot of things, but I think during his administration, he put in a lot of those concrete things. What was that about, Beth? Downtown, there's concrete bikeways and buffers and parking and stuff.
I think he got started under the Envision plan, the concept of a dedicated bikeway that's separated by curbs. Yeah, you're thinking of like there's a concrete separation between the traffic and where people walk and bicycle. And there is actually a ribbon cutting on January 22nd for the last major piece of that.
The name of it always kind of freaked me out.
Right, the green spine. Right.
It's kind of sounds like a comic book hero or something, or maybe a comic book villain. Oh, listen, we've got a call. There's a question mark there, so we don't know who this call is or what they have to say, but let's take a chance. All right. Caller, I'm trying to get you. Hold on.
Do you want to mention the funding for the South Tampa Greenway?
I'm not able to get that call. I'm going to drop you off, call back in.
Just hang on.
Oh, that was Mike in Sarasota. Oh, Mike, are you there? Nope. All right. Anyway, what were you ladies saying?
I was just going to...
there's Mike.
There's Mike.
Mike in Sarasota, what's up? How are things in Sarasota? You guys stuck in traffic?
Well, actually, Sarasota's it's warming up. It was very cold last night. And traffic in Sarasota has unfortunately become rather congested.
Yeah.
I want to introduce myself. I'm Mike Lachey. I'm with Florida Walks and Bikes.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
I have personally founded all three of Florida's bicycle advocacy organizations, the spokespeople, Florida Bicycle Association and Florida Walks and Bikes. And I wanted to comment on something that one of your guests was talking about. They used the word complete streets. And what everyone should know, and I could send you emails, and of course you don't have time to look at them this morning, but many people in the bicycle and pedestrian community have complained that complete streets is a nebulous and meaningless phrase because there is no standard. There's no set of standards attached to it. And indeed, when people have spoken to the board of the Complete Streets people, they said, oh, well, complete streets can mean anything. It can mean whatever the locals want.
So do you agree with that? You don't like the term complete streets?
Well, what I think is that what people should know, I mean, there might be some good to it, but what people should know is that it's meaningless. And what it does, it allows people, and I'm not saying this is true of your guest at all, but it allows planners or engineers or whoever to say, oh, well, we're doing a complete streets project, but it could be anything. You might have a painted bike lane, you might have a protected bike lane, you might have no bike lane at all.
So, Mike, I'm going to ask Beth this question, and I'll ask you as well, and Lynn can chime in. I think I've heard this comment a while ago. It seems strange to me because everything else in the transportation world has standards. I mean, transportation planners have these big, giant books, that tell you how to do everything according to some international standard. So why isn't there a standard for complete streets? Beth, You got an answer on that one?
And as usual, transportation planners do have standards for this. In the state of Florida, it's based on an elaborate context classification scheme, which basically, in plain English, means that you look at the community where the road is located.
The context.
The context,
Okay.
yeah. And so then you're not looking at just like what's the function for the vehicles, like is it an arterial, security, high-speed traffic? But
there's concrete, so to speak.
So if it's like a residential area, then you have certain improvements that would be part of the standard. If
Is
it's
this
a
in
commercial
writing?
area, it is in writing. Yeah,
Mike,
and so
what's
yeah.
the deal? Beth says it's in writing.
Well, actually, what Beth says is not quite that it is in writing. Number one, in Florida, we used to have what we call the FDM, the Florida Design Manual, which did provide strict standards. And then, in due to a trend that's happening nationwide, they then went with what's called this, what she's referring to as context sensitive, which takes it away from standards about, for instance, all arterials and collectors used to require a painted bike lane. Now it becomes in the judgment of the planners. The planners can decide it could be this, it could be that. And so it's much more difficult to and not I guess.
All right, Mike. Let me interrupt you. I'm going to leave you on the line for a second. Lynn, isn't it?
One thing. Okay, one thing. So what we've done is we've shifted away from standards to putting the power in the hands of the planners. And in terms, again, she did not answer the question. Complete streets is not what she's talking about when she's talking about the new Florida manuals anyway.
Okay. Lynn, I know you're not necessarily on the technical side of all this. You're on the elected side and the policy side. But, my response, if I was still elected official, it would be, isn't it good to look at this on a case-by-case basis in terms of the local, what's going on at the local level, which I think is what Beth was saying, the context, locally, as opposed to just one size fits all?
I probably fall somewhere in the middle because I still think you need a standard. Like there has to be a bike facility, but what does that bike facility look like?
Okay.
But personally, I mean, if it were up to me, we would have protected bike lanes everywhere.
Right.
That's just something that...
And it's too bad we didn't start on that 50, 80 years ago.
Exactly. But
how do we get there? How do we retrofit? And I want to jump into one of your pet projects, which is the Route 1 up Florida Avenue.
Yep. Well, honestly, interestingly enough, again, at the TPO meeting the other day, we were talking about an expansion of roads out in, I want to say it was like McIntosh Road, near I-4, and they need to expand it. And one of
sort of toward Plant City.
Yes, and one of them was talking about, well, why do we have a shared use path? People don't bike here. And it's like, well, it's near schools, all this stuff. And basically FDOT said, well, it's part of our standards. It's what we do.
And so FDOT was willing to put in a bike lane?
Yeah, they're putting in
that sort of country road.
Well, it's not really country road. There's a lot of businesses out there.
Okay.
And that's the reason
Maybe it used to be a country road.
Yes, it used to be a country road, and now
I used to go strawberry picking out there.
Now that's why they need to expand it. But basically, FDOT said no. Our standards now, when we're doing a 4-lane divided highway, are shared use paths. Okay. So you're getting the cyclists off the road, which I'm an advocate for either separating them from the lanes of traffic one way or another, whether it be a shared use path or separated bike lane. But I think standards are important, but then within that standard, the flexibility.
And a shared use path is outside of the road.
Shared use path is outside of the principal road.
Yes.
Right. It's outside of that curb area where the vehicles are located, so it provides more protection.
Exactly. It's separated by usually a grassy area, something of that nature.
How about those little bumps? Does that count? Those little
Yeah, I think
humps?
they do because personally, I would love to see I would love to see us do more of that when we're doing these really quick build projects, putting the car bumpers those little, just using those. I mean, there are lots of little ways to do
A lot
it.
less expensive,
Yes.
easier to approve, easier to,
Easier to do,
And gets the driver's attention.
yeah, one of the things that we're really struggling with in the city right now is the fact that the little plastic bollards just get run over. I'm an urban cyclist. I cycle all over the city all the time, and the metal bollards are much better on shared bike paths. But yes, we have a lot of work to do. But here, the great thing is that the city of Tampa has done way more, has started down that path, honestly, before we needed to, but not by 80 years. That would be lovely, but we have at least gotten a good setting. We are approving more and more of the green spine to be completed.
I think, what's his name? Vic
B-Day.
Vic Bede, who's the head of the Tampa All Things Transportation, whatever they call themselves. I think he's on board with this thing. I mean, he's definitely a lot more progressive than any city of Tampa, transportation person, leader that I'd seen over the decades. He seemed to be losing key staff last year. I don't know if they've replaced them. I don't know what the problem was. Maybe you two can enlighten me. This is down and dirty, But anyway, we don't need to go into the history that much. But did he replace these people? They were good people.
I honestly don't know that. I know I know I've seen a couple of moves, but I don't know to the extent. I will be honest.
No, that's all right.
But they are still working hard on the quick build projects that the councilwoman mentioned.
Yeah.
Like Swan Avenue's done. They're working on Armenia from Swan to Kennedy, 19th Street in East Tampa, which will basically extend the reach of the green spine all the way up to the river.
So Walk Bike Tampa is probably advocating this behind the scenes and in front of the scenes?
Well, and sharing the city's information, which is on the City of Tampa website about all these projects, sharing that with neighborhood members and civic group members. So, please, again, reach out to Walk Bike Tampa on Facebook, and we'd be glad to help you get up to speed if you're interested in any of those projects. McDill Avenue in West Tampa also.
I noticed that Mike is calling back. Mike, we'll get back to you in a minute. I'm sorry I lost you before. I noticed that, it used to be bicycling meant, moving your legs up and down. But now that you've got these electric motorized bikes, which is, seems pretty cool. Seems they seem to go fast, and I hope people wear helmets. But but Lynn Hertak's shaking her head no. But anyway, do those make a difference? Is that something we need to treat differently, or what?
I don't know that we need to treat it differently, but at the same time, no. People on electric bikes, for some reason in this city, I do not see helmets on folks on electric bikes. But to be fair,
and they're going 30 miles an hour or something.
Yeah.
Right?
To be fair, though, I see a lot of folks just biking without helmets.
Yeah.
So I think that's just an
of that.
overall thing we need to work on as a city is encouraging bike helmet usage.
We need to start with kids and give them free helmets. And then that way they'll learn those lessons when they're 12, 13 years old and grow up with that.
I would say yes, and I do think that's a great thing, but I don't see a lot of kids cycling these days. Oftentimes what families will do is take their bikes to a shared path or a protected path.
Or a park.
Yeah, a park. And that's fine. That's absolutely great. But I do believe we need to focus on the folks who are using their bikes to move about the city. I'll even run into a bike advocate every now and again who got lazy on wearing a helmet, and I told him, you need to put that helmet on. He's like, I will wear my helmet. It's because it's really important. It's important to model. So I'm whenever I'm out on a bike, I have a helmet on because it's important to me, but also modeling is important. And if people see me, and when I take a photo of myself and I'm riding my bike, I leave my helmet on just because I want people to think about connect bikes and helmets.
And if you take your helmet off, you get that helmet head hair.
Helmet hair, yeah,
You know.
absolutely. I've started putting mine in pigtails. It helps. But
So
I was,
listen, if you want to join the conversation, we have City Councilwoman Lynn Hertak from the city of Tampa, and she's citywide, and our phone number is 813-239-9663, and we have Beth Alden, who used to be the executive director of the Tampa
Transportation
Hillsborough
Planning Organization.
TPO. And Lynn, go ahead.
yeah, one of the reasons I wanted to come, and you touched on it briefly, I really wanted to have a moment to talk about
Absolutely.
the fare-free Route 1 that went into service on Sunday, January 5th, and it will go.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. This was an issue that I championed when looking for how we could get more resources, but also trying to figure out this Route 1 was basically
Heartline Bus Route
yes,
1.
sorry, thank you.
That's all right.
Bus Route 1.
Has existed probably since the beginning of time. It's Route
absolutely.
1.
It is. And
it's up and down Florida Avenue from
it is.
how far up?
It goes down from Whiting Street downtown all the way up to Fletcher and then over to about Bruce B. Downs area.
Yeah.
And ideally, what the city and what FDOT were planning for this was for it to be a bus rapid transit route or a BRT where
Right.
it would take a full lane. Well,
Which we do have sort of on Nebraska. We've got a modified BRT on Nebraska.
it is a modified because it still really goes with traffic. It
Yeah.
has fewer stops. And that's what a BRT would be. It would be fewer stops, be
BRT,
faster.
bus rapid transit.
Yes. And the legislature added some extra requirements after what happened in St. Pete with their Sunrunner. And unfortunately, it's
Why?
made it,
What happened to the Sunrunner?
the Sunrunner, the St. Pete Beach complained
That goes out Central Avenue
yes,
to the
all
beaches.
the way to the beaches.
Yeah.
And the people at St. Pete Beach complained that the homeless were riding it.
Oh.
And so therefore it went from free to having a fee.
Mm-hmm.
And which of course
NIMBY on a bus.
a NIMBY on a bus. And then of course that reduced the amount of people who are riding it. So they decided they didn't want any other cities to be able to create the bus rapid transit so easily. So they added extra layers. And one of the extra layers is a requirement for a certain amount of folks to be using it from day one.
Okay.
And so when thinking about it, it was going to be about the same route as Route 1. We really wanted to see, it's a $95 million project. But for $1.5 million for a year, we can see if we made it free. So basically increasing the speed of it. And we're increasing the frequency. So most bus routes are 20 to 30 minute headways, which means you can expect to be picked up from a stop every 20 to 30 minutes. This program, this pilot, has changed that to 15-minute headways. So now you can get on a bus. It's much faster, and then you're not taking time to figure out how to pay. You're kind of just speeding up the process.
Just get on. It's
yep.
free.
And get off where you need to. And so the idea is to kind of see how that would work. That's the point of the pilot. You know, the benefits of the pilot, though, are manyfold, and it allows folks to save more money who are already riding the route. It encourages people who've never gotten on a bus to say, it's free. Let's give it a try.
Eases the congestion downtown. Eases the parking issues downtown.
And so I'm working.
And parking's so expensive.
Parking is so expensive, and it's not going to get cheaper anytime soon.
Yeah.
Because of the revitalization of downtown. So as downtown gets busier, we're not building more parking. Really, I mean, because
the city's definitely not building more parking.
No, and because actually, believe it or not, we have a surplus of parking downtown, but getting there and then paying for it, if you're someone who works downtown every day, to be able to hop on the one and not have to pay a $75 monthly fee, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. I remember when I was a public defender, and they don't get paid well. That was a big chunk of money to take out of my wallet. So
you think about the restaurant workers and the hotel workers downtown.
Sure,
I used to ride the one with the chef of Spain restaurant.
Wow. Did you get any
he was-
hints on cooking?
I should have.
But no, seriously, good point. A lot of months I would just dodge it and walk a long way, park my car over there, further away.
Yes, and you used to be able to do that. You used to be able to park north of Kennedy for free, but no longer. They've taken it all the way to 275, and they've actually gone past 275. So it's a part of a growing pain of a growing city, and this is one way that we can do that. So
you funded it through the city budget, I recall,
Yes, I did.
last summer.
Yes.
You got at least 3 other votes on council. So let's give a shout out to those transportation-minded council members.
That would be Councilmember Clendenin,
Alan
Councilmember
Clendenin.
Maniscalco, and
Guido.
Councilmember Vieira.
Okay.
So
yeah, shout outs to the 4 of you for putting that in. Now it's only good for a year.
it's good for a year, and we will see. The idea is just kind of to see what happens. Again,
So we want to encourage people to ride it, because if they ride it, then it will perpetuate and perhaps continue.
I'm not sure about that. We're in barely a week in, but my goal really is, again, many fold. But I would love it if we could get those rings outside downtown, the first residential rings, for folks to say, okay, maybe I can take the bus. And you know what that does? It, for people who are further north, it provides relief, because there's several fewer cars on the road. So believe it or not, incentivizing this is actually great for someone who's coming from from
Wesley Chapel.
Yeah, well, Wesley Chapel's more interstate, but I was thinking like Carrollwood or something like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because personally, and you guys maybe do the same thing, a lot of times if I'm going downtown in my vehicle, I will, and it's not too heavy traffic, I'll jump on the interstate.
Yep.
Okay, and I'll do the 3 or 4 exits and jump off downtown. So I'm adding to that traffic.
Absolutely.
You're doing that. But if I walked a block away and took the one, courtesy of Lynn Hertak, then maybe there'd be one less car on the interstate.
And that's really, it's going to require a shift of people's thinking to do that. So I'm working with Transit Now Tampa Bay, which is an advocacy organization about transit in the community. And we're going to be doing all sorts of things, trying to encourage people and incentivize people. There are some folks who are going to go door to door and talk to the businesses along the route. There's going to be people that go door to door to talk to the apartment complexes within a quarter mile of the route. Just anything we can to incentivize people to say, hey, let's just give it a try.
So Beth and I were talking about the 2018 transit initiative that was on the ballot that passed, that should have given the community $200 million a year to address these issues. Then there was a court challenge, and pretty much the whole thing got struck. And here we are back at ground zero, sadly. Lynn, you're now the elected person, leader in transportation on the MPO, et cetera, TPO. How do we get back there? How do we put it on the ballot again and get it passed again so we can really make positive headway? We're making, the Route 1 was great, but it's a very small little piece in a very big puzzle. So how do we get further? How do we put that back on the ballot and generate that kind of income to overcome the backlog that's there?
I honestly think that promoting, encouraging, and supporting Route 1 will go a long way, because ultimately,
it'll be the poster child.
Well, Tampaños are not used to using public transit. It's just not. It's not something that we historically do.
Right.
So we have to
We
start
look down our noses and say it's only for poor people.
Well, and the TPO had a great survey last year that basically said the number one want of the entire Hillsborough County community is light rail. Mm-hmm. But guess what? If the light rail goes down 275, you get off the light rail, and what do?
Right.
You still have to get to your house. You need a bus.
And safe places to walk and bicycle.
Yeah. And exactly. So if you're close, you need bike access. But so folks really want to go for the absolute top pie in the sky, but we still have roots and branches of a tree that we have to flesh out. And if you look at Route 1 as a way to have people say, hey, this is what it was able to do. This is how many people it rode it. Hey, I noticed that when I was driving down Florida Avenue, it wasn't as crowded. It's still busy, but it wasn't as crowded. Maybe there's something to this bus thing. I think you have to really just give people the opportunity to see how change is made. You can't just tell them change is going to happen. We as a species just don't do that very well. In fact, leaving the Land Development Code meeting just a minute ago, really hard for people to visualize what the community could be. So by showing in small ways what it could be, and
it's hard to go from a crawl to a run.
Well, so my encouragement from that was the streetcar. And the fact that it went from just some sort of novelty that no one ever rode to being, it is standing room only. It is so busy because it's free. So now...
And I think that's funded by the DOT, isn't it?
Not anymore.
No?
It's going to be... The grant ended, and so we're actually working on how we can get funding for that. The city administration...
How much is that?
It's about $1.6 million.
Per year.
Yes, the city administration is not interested in funding it right now. So we as council are looking at ways we can fund it. At least I am right now. But the great thing about the streetcar is it ends at Whiting Street. If you cross over Whiting Street, there's a bus stop for Route 1. So you could technically get from Ybor all the way to USF for free.
There you go. Very good. I'm curious about the Land Development Code. We've got just a few more minutes, and we've got one or two callers, which we won't get to. Mike, I apologize. We'll get to you next week if you want to call back in and chat. But Land Development Code, were they talking about transportation issues, or was this mainly just zoning issues?
Zoning issues, redoing the entire Land Development Code, but transit actually does play a large part because the idea is to incentivize density around transit corridors. And the thing is, if we don't have transit, if we don't have people looking at transit, then what's the point of a transit development corridor? And that's one of those things that it's not a chicken or egg thing. We have to do both at the same time. So I think that this...
But as somebody who lives 100 feet off of Florida Avenue, that could scare me because that could say, oh, you want to put one of those 10-story high-rises or mid-rises, right adjacent to my property.
Sure.
And I'm not saying you do, Lynn, but I'm just saying that the argument of increasing density, I heard it when I was councilman, up and down Dale Mabry. There's, we have residential that is 100 feet away off of Dale Mabry, off of Kennedy, off of Florida Avenue, off of Nebraska, et cetera. So you have to be very, very delicate, in my opinion, when you do that sort of thing, right?
Well, you do, but, we only have a finite amount of houses now, and we are pushing our citizens out into the county. Mm-hmm. So what do? We have to put folks somewhere, and that is what the conversation is. That's why it's not a simple conversation. It's a 2-year process.
Interesting. Well, we're going to have to come back another day and talk about
Absolutely.
Land Development Code. And Beth, we will nerd out continually on this. Beth, remind everybody about the Kate Jackson. No, not Kate Jackson. What the Seminole Heights
Garden Center event.
What's that event?
Right. It's a community conversation about safe streets with Gil Penalosa of 8 to 80 Cities and Jessica Reisterhart of Families for Safe Streets.
When is it?
And that is February 12th. It's 5:30 to 7:30 again, Seminole Heights Garden Center.
And how do people register?
And you can, and it is free.
Oh, good.
But you can reserve your spot by going to planhillsboro.org or Walk Bike Tampa's Facebook page.
Okay, excellent. And what do you have to plug, Lynn Hurtak, City Councilwoman?
Ride the Route 1. Give it a whirl. If you aren't sure and you want to give it a try and you don't really know where to start, send me an email, lynn.hurtak@tampagov.net, and I can connect you with folks who can help.
Okay, and that's Lynn, Hurtak.
Correct, at tampagov.net.
At tampagov.net. So, I know we don't get a huge amount of calls on these topics, but I think they're so important. They're so important, not just how do we get around, how do we continually to drive around But how do we make our streets safer? How do we walk and bicycle safer? All these are important issues. Listen, I appreciate you guys, everybody who's out there listening today. This has been Down and Dirty on WMNF, and I'm John Dingfelder. I probably never did mention that. Lynn tells me I need to mention that every now and then. But we've been really thrilled to have Beth Alden and Lynn Hertek join us. Join us next week for a surprise topic. And we'll be here Friday morning at 10 in the morning. Thank you, Skip and Irene, for answering the calls. And
Glad to be here.
everybody have a great weekend.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
WMNF Tampa.
Live